So welcome to this video. I want to show you a piece or a snippet from a training that I ran some time ago, but it's so timeless. And it really shows you how to structure your business so that if your money goal is around the 10K mark or the 15K per month mark, this is the easiest way to get there. So in the video, I have my trusted sidekick, which is my board, and I map everything out for you. I want you to watch this video and take some notes, because if there's anything that's going to scale your business, it is this strategy. And by the way, if you're watching this and you haven't yet scheduled a call with my team to help you to build out your system, make sure you take a look below this video and you'll see a link to do so. But without further ado, let's dive in. Hello and welcome. This is Pam Obasa from The Lucrative Lady, and I'm so glad to have you here. In this training, I wanted to show you something a little bit special, something that took me quite a long time to figure out, a lot of trial and error, mostly errors, to be quite honest with you. But when I figured it out, I knew that it was something that I had a big passion to teach. And that, of course, is how to model your business, how to structure it so that you are able to receive the amount of income that you want. So I have my trusted sidekick here with me, my board, and I'm going to be, mapping it out for you so that you can walk away from this training and literally have that clarity on exactly how your business should be structured. So let's do it. So when a lot of people think about, their business, one of the first things they think about, or one of the first trainings they might purchase, or something that a lot of people teach about, is something known as the value ladder. So what is a value ladder? A value ladder essentially is something that begins at the bottom and goes all the way up. So over here, you might have your low ticket offer down here, and then right next to the low ticket offer. So the low ticket offer is actually a free offer. So we should really call this free, right? Down here you have something low, and let's call this something in the region of $27 to $37 or pounds. So I'm going to put $37. Now, a lot of people refer to this as the tripwire. Now, inside of the lucrative business or the lucrative sales system, we refer to this as your intro offer, because this is the first offer that your audience are introduced to. So next, you might have a medium offer. So people call it an upsell. And an upsell can be anything from $47 as much as $497. And it could keep going, but right at the top is your high ticket offer. Now, a high ticket offer, as far as we are concerned, is anything above the $2.5K mark. So 2.5K dollars or pounds. Now, why is it a high ticket offer? Well, it's because if you are going to sell something automated, such as a course or any digital products, it becomes a little bit more difficult to sell just automated, unless you are speaking to somebody on the phone, if your prices are above the 2.5K mark. Now, you may have come across this training, or at least you may know about the value ladder, but I don't want you to think about this. I want you to focus on what I'm going to be sharing with you. Now, what a lot of people teach is that you should have either this in your business, where your business is filled with low to medium ticket offers and it is completely automated. Now, there is a positive and a negative to everything that I'm going to be sharing with you, or that you should have this, where your business is operating as a high ticket business and you are charging 2.5K, 5K, 8K, 10K, 20K even for your services. And it sounds amazing. So there are two things that I want you to think about before you even decide where your business ought to be. And that is what I call your BAIG, which is your basic income goal. What is your basic income goal? So when people work with me, one of the first things I want to discover about them, even before we begin to work together, is what is their basic income goal. Now, your basic income goal is the first money goal that you want to have. right? It is that goal that if you are in a 9 to 5, it is the money that replaces your 9 to 5 income so that you can leave that and pursue your freedom lifestyle and pursue your dreams and your passions and all of those things. But we all know that it becomes difficult to do that if you can't replace that income. So you want to have your basic income goal, and that is the first thing you want to be able to replace with within your business. Now, what is your basic income goal? How do you figure that out? Well, you figure it out by thinking to yourself, okay, well, what are my expenses? What are my bills? What is my mortgage or my rent? How much is it to eat? And how much is it to live and just break even and just live? Or what is my current income? And then that becomes your basic income goal. So now I used to ask, how much money do you want to make in your business? And people would, come up with all sorts of figures that have absolutely no basis or no foundation. And the problem with that is that if you just pluck a figure from thin air and you have nothing to base it on, it becomes very difficult for you to actually hit that goal. So I begin with my clients by working out what is the basic income goal that they need to replace. For most people, it's around the 3 to 5K mark. So let's call this 5K, right? So your basic income goal is $5,000. Now, the next figure that I want you to think about before we decide what your overall money goal is what I call your BAIG. And that is your big, audacious income goal. What is your big, audacious income goal? So if up here, your basic income goal is 5K, your big, audacious income goal is that additional level of income that will take you away from, I'm just breaking even, or I'm just making ends meet, to actually, I am living a lucrative life. What is a lucrative life? Well, it's a life that affords you the lifestyle that you want, so that you can enjoy it with your family, your husband, your kids, and your spouse, your wife, whoever it is that who are your loved ones. And, it's that amount of money that allows you to be able to live beyond your imagination, live a life less ordinary, holidays, giving money to people, to charities, and making investments. All of those things form your big, audacious income goal. So if your basic income goal is around 5K, what is your big, audacious income goal? So how much more money would you say, oh Pam, if I had this extra amount of money above my basic income goal, I would literally be rolling in laughter, right? That's how much it will mean to me. So for a lot of people who come to me, again, they go, Pam, what, if you add another 5K or another 10K to that, I would be over the moon. So let's make that 10K. So if we put that together, right, your money goal, your freedom money goal now becomes 15K. So this is the money you want to be making in your business. Now, once you have that figure, the next thing you definitely want to think about is, now, how am I going to make this money? Well, the first income that you want to be making is your basic income goal. You want to cover this first and then do that consistently for a couple of months. And then your next goal is your big, audacious income goal. And that is adding that together. Now, how exactly are you going to do that? Well, when I was first developing my business in the first 18 months, for example, I struggled with this simply because, number one, I didn't know exactly what my income goal was. I didn't know that I had to divide it and almost have a two-tiered goal, so that I hit one goal and I can tick that off my list and feel amazing, like I have achieved something incredible, and then hit the other goal. I had a lot of these gurus throwing big figures at me that I had no way under the sun, under the heavens of achieving this goal. So once I was able to structure my income goal, the next thing I had to do was to structure how to make that money. And again, so a lot of people will teach that, if you want to make this amount of money, you have to have a value ladder that has several low products, right? So you have a free offer, which is your freebie. You have a low offer, which is, around the 37, so your intro offer. And then you have your upsell or your core offer here. And then you have a lot of people who will teach, no, actually, you shouldn't do this. You should go straight to the high ticket and sell an offer of 2.5K or 5K or 10K, and that should be what you do. The problem with both of these strategies is that if you are in this camp and you have only these products, it becomes really, really difficult to hit this goal. So for example, if you wanted to make your basic income goal, which is 5K, with a low ticket product, you would have to sell 137 of this to make this amount of money, right? You would have to sell 137 of that. And then, yes, some of the people who buy here will also buy here, right? So it's an okay strategy. It's okay, right? You sell this amount of product, you make your basic income goal, and some people buy here, and you are doing okay. The problem with that is now you've got to figure out how many people need to come into your funnel in the first place, right? So how many people need to take your free offer? And then from that, how many people will then purchase here? So if you are converting, if this is converting at 10%, for example, then you are going to need 1,370 people to grab your lead magnet in order to sell 10% of them at $37. And yes, some of them will buy over here in order to make your basic income goal. So you can see how if you do it that way, you probably have no money left over after running some paid ads. So you might not want that strategy. So then a lot of people teach instead that you ought to go high ticket. You ought to sell products that are 3K, 5K, 10K and above, which sounds good because if you have a product of 2.5K, for example, you only need to sell 2 of that in order to make your basic income goal. And if you have a product that's 5K, you only need to sell 1 of them to make your basic income goal. So it sounds really attractive, but the problem with that is, and what a lot of people don't tell you, is that in order for people to actually buy at this level, number one, it takes a lot of people to come in through your funnel, right, before they actually get here. And then number two, it takes a lot of time, hours and hours and hours spent on the call, holding conversations, hearing lots and lots and lots of no's and objections before you might get that yes if you are good at sales. So what is it? This strategy requires a lot of time. So if you have a lot of time to burn, then you might want to simply have your business as a high ticket business. Now, I don't like that because if you are trying to build your business, and perhaps if you are at a point where you are wanting to get clients, if you are struggling to get clients, then having a business that is based on high ticket sales isn't necessarily the best thing to do, because you are going to be working from a place of desperation. Because when people get on a call with you, and this is what happens to a lot of people when they come to me and before we start to work together, one of the things that they share with me is that because their finances are in an already dire place, in a very difficult place, this zone becomes a desperation zone where somebody books a call with you and it's almost as if you've got to get that client, and that becomes the mindset. It's, oh my goodness, I've got to book this person, because you know that if you book them, it becomes big money. But the problem with that is that that mindset will never get you the client. So people end up going in circles and in circles, and depending on referrals, which are very few and far between, or recommendations which barely come, and it becomes very, very difficult to actually run your business off of this level. So now I've got an X here and an X here. You're probably wondering, so Pam, what is the solution? What is the solution? Well, I can tell you firsthand, being somebody who tried this alone by itself and tried this alone by itself, I can tell you that both of these strategies are okay. But where I found freedom, if I'm being completely honest with you, where I found freedom in my life and in my business was when I actually combined these two strategies. When I combined these two strategies, I saw a ton of freedom coming in. And I'll show you exactly why that works. Now, I had built this in my business, and like I said to you, yes, I was getting sales. A lot of sales actually, but because I was spending a lot of money on traffic, and because the products were quite low and I didn't have anything higher, I was almost spending the money that I was making almost instantly. So I had that gratification that I was making money, but I never got to keep any of it, which was incredibly demoralizing and wasn't encouraging at all. And when I had this working in my business, it was taking a very, very long time. And this is coming from somebody who is pretty good at sales, right? Taking quite a while to get people on the call, spending a lot of hours being a mom of very young children, spending hours and hours and hours talking to people, draining and time consuming. But when I added these two together, having this section in my business helped me to actually pick on the low-hanging fruit. What is the low-hanging fruit? Well, the truth that not many people talk about is that if you have 100 people, for example, right? If you have 100 people, grab your free offer, right? Your lead magnet. If you have 100 people, grab your free offer. Not all 100 of them are ready for this. Do you see what I'm trying to say? Not all 100 of them are ready to have a conversation with you, let alone invest 2.5K or 5K or above with you. Why? Because they are super, super cold. They have no idea who you are. They only just got your freebie, right? They're yet to consume and digest this thing. But what I found in my business and what's working in the business of my clients is that when we took them through this process, and instead of stopping here, we took them all the way to the top, giving them the opportunity to book that call, but only when they had taken certain steps. It meant that from the 100 people who joined here, yes, we might have, say, 15 people book a call, but from those 15 people, they are super qualified. They know you, they love you, they trust you. They've walked through some steps which have built that nurture. They've read and understood and have bought into your messaging. They have watched your video sales letters. They have understood and bought into your story. They are loving all that you do before they even book that call to speak with you. And once you get on that call with them, it becomes such an easy conversation, which makes getting that yes 1 million times easier. So to round up, how should you structure your business? If you want to hit your big, audacious income goal, whatever that is, right? Mine at the time when I first built this into my business was 15K. Now it's gone up. If you want to hit such a goal, you cannot have either of these systems away from themselves. You've got to have one system, and we call that the lucrative sales system. And that helps you to offer your products completely automated. And that is the beauty about this part of the sales system. It is automated. That means that once it's set up, all you're doing is driving traffic. You don't have to create the products again. They are there. They become assets in your business, bringing in leads, turning those leads into customers who are paying you. And then the most qualified of those people are the people who then book a call with you and pay you big money. Now, when I put this into my business, it really transformed my world within the first couple of months of implementing the entire system. At this level, we were doing about 3K per month at this level. And that was about a year ago. Right now we are doing triple that and completely automated. And then at this level, I have products that are, $8,000, $9,000 and above at this level. And if I want to hit my goal, all I need is 1 or 2 clients at this level, right? So I don't even have to have many calls with them because I have this that has totally covered my basic income goal. So do you see how by having a system like this in your business, you can really have your cake and eat it? You have this working for you to cover your basic income goal and this part working for you to cover your big, audacious income goal. And together, that is true freedom. This, honestly, is the fastest path to getting this figure. That 15K, that 20K and above that you want is the fastest path to doing it. Thank you so much for watching. I know that you got value from that. If you have already scheduled your call, make sure that you've put it in your calendar because we will be waiting, ready to help you to build and scale. However, if you're watching this, but you haven't yet scheduled your call, you have one last opportunity to do so, and the link is below this video. I'll see you on the call.